I guess the first thing I wanted to do as part of my presentation was to define, when I talk about migration, what I really mean by migration. And I think it's important to, as a lawyer, we like to define terms and to understand what it is we're talking about. In the context of migration, for my presentation, I'll be using the term migration to mean those who are displaced within their own country, to those who are displaced and ultimately become refugees, those who seek asylum, and also those who migrate for other reasons. And that may be for economic opportunity, that may be for some family reasons, or so on and so forth, or cultural reasons as well is another reason for migration there. But I guess in the broad context, when I talk about migration, and certainly when I talk about push factors for migration, that is actually what I'm talking about. My expertise, obviously coming from the United Nations Department of Peace Operations, is really focused in and around areas of armed conflict and also fragility. So in that context, without wanting to take away from the other panelists on this particular panel, I thought I would stick to that area of the discussion and deal with the push factors that occur in the context of conflict and fragility when it comes to migration. So what we see generally, obviously for push factors in migration, when it comes to armed conflict, there are clear push factors relating to insecurity, to risks to people's security that cause people to ultimately seek to migrate or to be displaced or to indeed seek asylum or refugee status. So that's a significant factor that's seen. What that also links to is to issues to do with protection for those people as well. We see that armed conflict, and invariably in modern armed conflict, and certainly the conflicts that are ongoing within the African continent, if we think about the ongoing conflict in South Sudan, the conflict across Darfur, if we think about the conflict in the Central African Republic, in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, we think about Mali, those types of conflict being non-international in character, but involving both state actors and non-state actors. Invariably, what occurs within those conflicts is that civilians become targets or become an aspect of the conflict and are certainly pushed or displaced out of their villages, out of their townships, and out of their cities, unlawfully in most cases, and that's a significant challenge for the international community to respond to, a significant challenge for African Union forces to respond to when African Union forces are providing some level of peacekeeping or conflict resolution solution, and also as well for the United Nations to be able to also respond to that in the context of United Nations peacekeeping. In terms of how those push factors in the context of conflict, certainly what we see is the use of sexual and gender-based violence to disproportionately target civilians and disproportionately women and girls in the context of armed conflict. And that's done to instill fear, to incite terror, and to forcibly displace people. And that's a useful, that United Nations Security Council has described that as being a tactic of warfare that disproportionately affects women and girls, but also has the ability to affect men and boys as well. But it's certainly been seen in the African context. It's certainly been seen in South Sudan. If you look at the conflict in South Sudan and you look at the displacement of peoples internally and the requirements to provide protection to those people, you certainly see sexual and gender-based violence as a significant push factor within those conflicts.